Great day, everyone, and thank you so much for watching. As usual, my name is Isabella, and it is more than a pleasure to have you here. I would like to start this video off by first apologizing for the fact that this video is a day late. This has been quite a week for me, and it's been one that's both been slow, it has been fast-paced, and it has also been adventurous. And so, before we get started into the talk, I'm going to talk a little bit about how this week has been for me. A couple of things that came up, what I did to adapt to them, and what I did to get through with them. And then after that, we will go ahead and dive into the talk. So what exactly have I been up to this week? Let's first start off with talking about the adventure. I've been freelancing for the past month, and it's been a wonderful experience. Always something new, something adventurous, and these projects have been fantastic. And I've met some pretty interesting people along the way. With this one project I was a part of, that's what I want to share with you guys, because it was not the most easiest of situations to be in, and I had to make a rather difficult decision on what to do. So with that, I found myself in a very negative environment. Now granted, I was only in part of that environment for about 5 to 6 hours that day. And the term was going to be rather long and consistent. But I found that the atmosphere, aside from it being a bit unhealthy during this pandemic, was otherwise negative, and not tolerably negative that I wanted for my life, or that I wanted to participate in. I know that in order to be able to make this content and in order to be able to have healthy relationships, I have to be healthy and I have to be okay. And so with that, I ended up making the decision that being in that environment was not going to be best for me. And that was okay. And that's going to be a little bit about what we talk about today. Are we just putting up with certain situations? Or are we doing something about it? And are we giving ourselves the credit that we deserve when we do? Of course you want to be humble. And of course you don't want to boast or brag. But at the same time, pat yourself on the back when you deserve it. Especially when it comes to your personal health. It's not always something that is easy to acknowledge and to take care of. But if you are doing that, and you have done that, then great job. And I'm so proud of you. Just like you should be too. And so that's part of what I want to share today with you, is that sometimes we find ourselves in these negative situations, but self-preservation and self-happiness has to be our main priority above all else. Because if you aren't around, and if you are not healthy, then you can't take care of your home. You can't take care of your family. You can't be there to party with your friends. You can't be there for the fun times in life. You have to be healthy. And you have to be taking care of yourself. So if that means removing yourself from a negative situation or not following through with plans that you had for work, sometimes you have to make a harder decision, even if it means a bit of sacrifices. Money is definitely something that we could all use more of. I know I definitely could, and I can almost guarantee that you definitely could. But with that, even if it means that we take a bit of a pay cut, or even if it means that we have to adjust life in some way, if it means that you could be happy, if it means that you can be healthy, and if it means that you could be more relaxed, then please take the time to consider to do that, because the reward definitely outweighs the risk. So I came across that situation and I dealt with it. And then as the week went on, I found a couple of other situations pop up that required my attention, that required my energy, that required a bit of sacrifice into my mental health for the day. My motivation was low, but I still had my responsibilities that I had to attend to. And with that, after I took care of what I had to attend to, I realized that I'm a bit fatigued, or my emotional health is rather beyond low at that point, and I need to rest. And so with that, I had to make some sacrifices this week when it came to my schedule. And it cost me that I am now having to get everything done in one day. And the reason that I'm being this honest with you is because I'm human just like all of you. You are human, just like everyone else. It doesn't matter whether you're watching someone on a screen. It doesn't matter whether you're going to go visit someone else that has something that you don't. We are all human. And sometimes we get behind. But just like I've done, sometimes you have to reschedule. Sometimes you have to come up with a new plan. But all that matters is that you still follow through with it. Just like I know you can do. And you know you can do that. So in talking about my week this week, it brings me to a little story that I would like to share with you all. And this will help guide us into the topic of today. The story is that when I was younger, it was such a desire of mine to be able to stay home whenever I wanted. If my parents had went out to the store, or if they had went out for whatever reason, and no one was there to watch me, then it was so important to me that I be able to stay home to take care of myself. If I wanted to play with toys, if I wanted to watch something on TV, whatever the case was at that time in my childhood, I wanted the option to be able to say no and to stay home. And that wasn't always granted to me, but when it first started to, I came across a couple of interesting things. There were a couple of moments I came across that I was hungry. Yes, there were snacks and there were leftovers, but nothing is as good as the pizza rolls that could be made in the fridge, or something that I've seen my mother put into the oven so many times. And when I thought that I could do that, I realized I had never done that before. I had never cooked something in the oven like what it was I wanted to make. So then I came across a situation that I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted still the food to make out of it. So what did I do in that moment? Well, I read the directions on the back and followed it to the best of my ability. And as we all know, sometimes directions suggest longer than what the food actually takes, and your food may get burnt. I'm not trying to say that happened to me. All I'm saying is that there's a possibility that it did not as well. And I am sticking to that story until I am proven otherwise. So with that, I came across a situation where I was inexperienced and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was able to get the answers, thankfully, and everything turned out okay. I adapted. And that's where we are right now in this year of 2020. We have come across so many situations in which we have no choice but to adapt. We have no choice but to say yes to things. We have no choice but to say no to things sometimes. And that's not always easy, and it is so stressful at times to say no. Just like it can be stressful to say yes. Especially in this year, we all had things planned. We all had goals. And we had to adapt out of that. We had challenges that we could not turn away. And that is so unfortunate. But I wonder, have you really done anything different in the past years? That's what we're going to talk about. In the past years, we all have things that come up that we can't control. We have things that are rather unexpected. And we have moments that are rather hard and that are life-changing for us. And we take those moments and we take those situations. Maybe we reach out for help. Maybe we are the only ones who can make the decisions. And we follow through with it. Especially if you don't get a choice. You have to follow through with it. And no one got a choice for this year. No one got a choice to say, no, I don't want to deal with this all year long. I don't want to lose that loved one. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to sacrifice. We didn't get that option. And yet, as you are watching this video today, you are making it through the year. You have adapted in all the ways that you have. And that right there is a fantastic example of how strong that you are and how powerful you are when it comes to the heat of the moment sometimes. A lot of times we get caught up in selling ourselves short, or we think that we could have done things different. But guess what? If you made it through that situation, if you've overcome that obstacle, and if you've adapted to that life-changing event, then you don't need to be any stronger than what you already are, because you're fantastic. And it's so, like I said, you're an amazing person for what you've been through. And though we had a lot of unexpected occurrences this year, you are still surviving. You are still doing what you have to do for yourself. Would a weak person be able to do that? No. Have you given up on yourself? Have you just called it quits altogether? Hopefully not. And why you haven't is because you're stronger than you know. And it's time that you start telling yourself that you're strong. And it's time that you start crediting yourself. You telling yourself that you can't do something is a negative obstacle. You telling yourself that you're not good enough is a negative obstacle. Well, what have you been doing with all of your other obstacles? You've adapted to them. So adapt to this one. Stop telling yourself that you're not good enough. Stop telling yourself that you can't make it. Stop telling yourself that your efforts are worthless, because they're not. Take it from someone who is putting themselves out there into life right now. I am the one that is doing all of this filming. I am the one that is doing all of the editing. And I'm the one that is keeping up with life as much as I can. From a lot of the situations that I find myself in, I know that it can be hard to see the reward at the end of your efforts. Sometimes it can take days, weeks, months, and years, and that can be exhausting. But you can do it, just like you have been. And you have to give yourself credit for how far you've gotten already. Whether it be something small, but it still matters to you. Or whether it be something big and it was the hardest thing that you've ever had to do. You've done that, and you've done that this year, so stop selling yourself short. Put yourself out there. Whatever it is that you want, go and get it, within reason. Because it's just right around the corner, and sometimes that can be a pretty big corner, or that corner can be pretty far away. However it is, you're in charge of yourself. So when you come across a situation, if you have to adapt, know that that's okay. Because you've been doing it all along. You've done it this year, and you've done it in the previous years. You will do it for the rest of your life. Are you going to be upset about that? Or are you going to take your energy and your effort and put it towards doing something with it? Thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed this video.